That's what I'd like to do.
Good morning. Welcome to the International Buddhist Meditation Center Sunday service. As usually, in this Sunday also we're going to do same program. First, we're going to do a little bit meditation. Before that, Venerable Panyaloka is going to give some instruction about the meditation. So maybe 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, we're going to finish meditation. After that, it's going to start Dhamma Talk. Today, Dhamma Talk is going to give Mr. Sailesh Maharjan. I hope he will be in the online right now. After the Dhamma Talk, you can ask the question and answer, and you can share your experience or whatever. So, the latest one is going to be chanting, page 4 and page 10, and some Pali chanting. Blessing for everybody because of the situation in this world right now is getting worse. In Corona. So we go to bless for everybody. Yes, recently there are earthquake in somewhere in the Middle East area, Turkey, I believe, the country. We do have some friends in Turkey. We are sorry about that, and we wish for them speed recovery. And we're going to meditate few minutes. Panyaloka is going to give some instruction.
If you feel like closing your eyes, please feel free to close your eyes. Relax your body, relax your mind. Take a deep breath 3 times. Next, we are going to practice the Metta Bhavana, the loving kindness meditation. First, we are going to practice the loving kindness meditation for ourselves. Step by step, we are going to practice the loving kindness meditation to every being in this universe. Reflect upon these words. May I be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always find fulfillment. May I also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May my teachers, may my parents, may my brothers and sisters, may my relatives, may all they be well and happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. May my indignant people, may indifferent people, may my enemies also be well, happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. May all beings in the universe be well, happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. May everyone suffering from COVID be well and happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May they always find fulfillment. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arisen in these realms be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always find fulfillment. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. Feel free to practice silent meditation only for 1 minute.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. He's on online right now? All right. Good morning, Sailesh.
Good morning, Bante.
Until he ready, we're going to give some announcement. I think the next Sunday, Chandana Bhiksu is going to give a Dhamma talk, and I believe he's in Turkey or some Lebanon right now. Armenian, yes. He's going to give a Dhamma talk, and the third Sunday, Reverend Kusala is going to give a Dhamma talk. Fourth one, Reverend Panyaloka is going to give a Dhamma talk. And the last Sunday of this month, I believe, oh yes, I'm not sure. Let me check the schedule. Subodha is going to give a Dhamma talk last Sunday. So I think right now our Dhamma teacher, Sailesh Maharjan, he's online. Sailesh, you can start your Dhamma talk right now. End of the Dhamma talk, the question and answer.
Thank you, Bante. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you guys again. I hope you are taking care of yourself. It's a very challenging time for all of us. And I think I'm still trying to fix my clocks in my house. So time is a little off. That's why I think I was a little late. Anyway, so today I was planning to talk about the core teaching in Buddhism that we all aspire to follow, the eightfold paths. And one time, a person, I can't remember whether it was in this meeting or some other gathering, a person asked me, what is the difference between Theravada tradition and Mahayana tradition? So in terms of those two schools and inside those schools, they had different other sub-schools. But if you were to look at the core teaching in both schools, you will find something common, and that would be these eightfold paths. And Buddha, when he was enlightened at the age of 35, he started teaching about these Four Noble Truths and eightfold paths. That was right after he was enlightened. And for 45 years, he continued teaching the same principles without changing a bit in those approach. And the last day when the Buddha was passing away, so I like to relate with the story. He was in his last breath. So 80 years old, you can imagine, old and also extremely tired. Buddha was lying down for the last few breaths. And there comes a guy named Subhadra. This Subhadra, he was rushing from different places and he wanted to know about Buddha's teaching. But other monks, including Venerable Ananda, they stopped him, this Subhadra, don't disturb the Buddha because he's really tired and he's not very well. At that point, they continued with a little bit of discussion and Buddha overheard them talking. And what Buddha did was he wanted to let the guy come and ask his question. And Buddha asked Ananda to let Subhadra come in. And he went to the Buddha, sat down, bowed. He started telling his story. I come from this background. I've been traveling across the country, different places for many years, and I'm looking for the teacher. And he went on and on. Buddha stopped him. You can keep your story, but listen what I have to say because I have limited time. And Buddha told him if you find these eightfold paths in any teacher's teaching, don't ask about the teacher, just accept it and follow. So he gave this advice to Subhadra. While Subhadra was listening to this, having this discussion with the Buddha, another monk in the background, he overheard this teaching, and his name was Dhammarama. And this young monk, he left the crowd, he went inside and started practicing meditation. And the other monks found that this young monk, instead of being in front of the Buddha in the last minute, he's practicing meditation. So they dragged this Dhammarama outside and brought to the Buddha and told, this monk was practicing meditation. We are all sad because you're passing away. And Buddha confirmed whether that was true or not. And Dhammarama told that, yes, Bhante, I heard you gave a talk to Subhadra and I felt inspired. I thought to determine, I will be enlightened before you pass away. That's why I started my practice. And Buddha put his palm together and, praised him, saying, sadhu, 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 excellent, excellent, excellent. You are my true student. So the story gives that how much importance that Buddha put on this practice of eightfold paths. And here in the United States, you hear a lot about mindfulness meditation, and that's what is popular. Most people like to talk, and also in psychotherapy, they have adopted mindfulness technique as a part of cognitive behavior therapy. They have done a lot of research to show that mindfulness indeed work for many psychological problems, including depression and anxiety. That is one part of those eightfold paths. Now, anytime, the easiest way to do, anytime you look at the difference from Eastern and Western knowledge, because I have this Eastern background, I can't stop thinking, when we go to medical treatment in those old traditional way, we call Ayurveda, that is, the term itself has it like the science of health. It doesn't tell sickness. It is not science of sickness. It is Ayurveda. That means science of health. And when you go there, they try to give you medicine. It's not just for example, I'm trying to keep it simple. If you take a root, most of the medicines are extracted from some kind of plant, root or tree or leaf or bark. So when you take those medicine, in Eastern tradition, you don't try to extract only that chemical from the root. You try to give the whole thing, because the philosophy behind that, giving the whole root or the essence of root is you don't want side effect. If you just extract the essence of it, you may have like high potent medicine, but probably you will lose some of the other supplementary elements that is necessary to avoid side effects in this medicine. I don't know how much I'm clear. I'm trying to connect between you take only the essence out of a certain chemical out of root would be as dangerous as you take one practice out of 8. So eightfold paths. There are 8 paths and you only take one, mindfulness. This is great. Let's keep this practicing because we don't need to care about the rest. Well, you did the same thing like the medicine is doing with the roots. And yes, they're very high potent, but unfortunately you lost the essence. You lost all other chemicals necessary to avoid side effects. Now I talk about drugs in my class, and in Southern America, this coca leaf was so famous, people used them to stimulate themselves. But when they used for hundreds of years, it was never a problem. Maybe people were addicted, but it was never a problem to the point people develop fornication. They start having crazy sickness like that happen by cocaine and other drugs. Why? Once you extract certain chemical, you are now in danger of abusing it and also becoming addicted and also losing other component. Same thing, that's how I see when you take these eightfold paths. Yes, mindfulness has been the most popular, but does that mean we ignore the rest, the 7? Well, it will leave you in the midway. it can take you to some extent, and that's what I see in research. Now, I am doing research on mindfulness, and every time I read research, they hit this dead end. There's no way out, because, okay, this is how far we can come. Yes, it helps to reduce depression, it helps to cope with anxiety, but what next? What is next level? Is that all we can do? Well, you're missing the point. You took this out of bigger group, and you have to take care of other 7 factors. Actually, they go together. They go hand to hand, starting from right understanding. That's where Buddha starts, samadhi. Right understanding is most important part and the starting point, because without clear vision, without understanding the nature of life, you may not go too far. And that's where Buddha talked about 4 noble truths. That's where right understanding comes from. And if you summarize the whole 4 noble truths, suffering, cause of suffering, cessation of suffering, and the path of cessation of suffering, those 4, if you combine together, the message is, can you look at your life? Can you look at your physical and psychological experience from a clear perspective, from no distortion? And the other way in Pali, we call yatha bhuta jnana. Can you see things as they are? Do you have that perception, or you are covered by lots of your dispositions, your memories, your past experience, your expectation, interest? Do you use them to filter the things that you see? And that's where we misunderstand. That's where this right understanding is lacking. And once you have right understanding, that's where you look at samma ditti, samma sankappa, right thought or right thinking. So right thinking has to do with how do you understand the world, your experience. If I'm in pain, do I own that pain and start crying because of that pain, or do I separate myself from the pain and not identify with the pain, just observe pain as pain? That brings that mindfulness. So mindfulness alone is not complete. You have to have right understanding. Right thought is being mindful of your thoughts, and this thought can take you from very highest level, super genius person, to worse, like psychopath, because of thinking. And that's where Buddha focused so much. He has entire teaching on this thought process. That's what we call Buddhist psychology. In Abhidhamma, this higher teaching or psychology of Buddhism, Buddhist psychology, it tells you different ways that you can look at thought. And these thoughts are constantly changing, and these thoughts can take different forms. It can be thought that is as dangerous as it could lead to some kind of karmic result. I think I mentioned this in my previous talk. When you take a negative thought like anger, there are different layers of anger. And I think I mentioned that in previous talk. So today I'll tell you, same thing with our desire. So when you take desire, liking is almost like the first layer of tanha, or desire. Just liking. There's not much involved, just liking. And when your liking increase, that's where this attachment comes. That's where this lust comes. So the next one is, first is just liking. The second is now desire, the attachment to it. I want it. I want to own it. I want to have it for myself. That's like a second layer. And just like in disliking, then it goes to anger, then it goes to hatred, then aversion. Same way, liking, desire, and the third one is, I don't know proper English word. In Pali, we call abhijja, indulgence, if that is close to the meaning. So to the point, you are now obsessive about that idea. You're constantly thinking and planning to achieve it, wanting to have more, planning not to lose it. So that's called abhijja. Just like in aversion, in negative aspect, when you have aversive thoughts, that thought itself can produce karma. It can, just having that aversion thought can create some karmic result. Same thing to do with abhijja. not avidya. Avidya is ignorance in Pali. Avidya is strong attachment or obsessive attachment. And that can itself produce karma. So thought can be very dangerous. And there was a tradition in Buddha's time, Jaina tradition, Jainism. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. That was contemporary to the Buddha. And there's a debate between the Buddha and the Jaina master Mahavira. They used to have discussion. Jaina seemed to emphasize so much on physical action. The Buddha showed that physical action cannot happen without your thoughts. You need to have your consciousness. You need to have some kind of intention to do. So that's how we define karma. Chetanang bhikkhave kammang vadami. The karma is produced when your intention is present. And with that intention, whether you do good thing or bad thing, the corresponding result will follow. Yang chetitva kammang karoti kayana vacha manasawa. So any kind of action we do with mind, body, and speech, with good or bad intention, that will produce good or bad result. So bringing back, having that right understanding help you to identify what kind of thoughts should we have. And can you stop thinking? Now, some people misunderstand meditation stops your mind. Well, I wish it could happen. You cannot stop thoughts. There's no way you could stop thoughts unless you're dead. And even, if you look at little bigger picture, even at death, actually thought doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It continues in a new cycle. So mind does not stop from this process of thinking, because mind does not exist without thoughts. There is no way mind could exist without thought. In Abhidhamma, Buddha explained, ekutpada, eka nirodha, eka alambana. Mind always arises with a thought, mind always ceases with the thought, and mind always take the same object like the thought. So these qualities tells you mind is not free from thoughts. So you cannot stop thinking. That means you just lost your mind. And that sounds a little scary. So you don't want to lose your mind, right? So thought is always there. What we're trying to do is right thinking, how to avoid wrong thinking, how to avoid these dangerous thoughts. And I was told to give this 20 minutes. I'm going to start with the third one. Probably when I come back, I will try to go from the fourth one. So third one is samadhi samma sankappa, samma kammanta. And the third one is right action, right? Samadhi samma sankappa, samma kammanta. The right action. I think I will take the right speech. I'll start with speech later, but let's talk about briefly right action. When you have right thinking, and the English term right doesn't do a fair job to explain samma. Now, right does not mean the opposite of wrong. Right means what does not produce the bad karmic result to yourself.
Sailesh, you can take a few another 10 minutes, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
Okay.
So, I'm trying to rewind my thought. So the third one is, let's say, samadhi, samma sankappa, samma vacha, samma kammanta. I talked about action first. I'll tell you about action. So when you have right action, action, there are many ways to pollute your action. When you have right thinking process, then you can choose what kind of action is appropriate. And people ask, I want to be Buddhist, but I don't want to follow 5 precepts because that's too much of a demanding. Well, in fairness, you go to doctor and you tell doctor, I just want to be healed. I don't want to exercise. I know I have diabetes. I don't want to exercise. I don't want to eat properly. Give me just some pill so I can be free from diabetes. So I don't know if that's a good analogy. You're just making some kind of bargaining for your health and not listening the proper rules. The same thing with this, if you look for easy way, that means Dhamma is not the easy way. Dhamma doesn't give you easy path. Dhamma challenges you in every step. The right action is the opposite of wrong action, or miccha kammanta. Now miccha is it's misguided action rather than like a wrong action. I think it's misguided actions. Now, when you say right action, samma kammanta, you try to identify what action is samma. And easy way to tell the samma from miccha, the misguided right action from misguided action, is as the result of your action, what would be outcome? What is the outcome of your action? If that action leads you to more clinging, more hatred, and more ignorance, that's the easy way to tell, okay, my action is misguided. If your action is the way that reduce anger, reduce clinging, and reduce ignorance, that is the right action. So that's samma kammanta. In a definition, by definition, that's the kusala kamma. That's what kusala kamma becomes. And when you talk about kusala kamma, there's like a whole story I can talk about the difference between kusala and punya. And punya, people try to do things with intentional or like a subconsciously expecting something in return. Now, when you have those expectations, there is a subtle layer of attachment. You know, you go to temple, you give some donation, you go to some homeless shelter and you do a big dana or some offering, some donations. And if you have subtle expectation that, oh, people should praise me, people should recognize me, they should acknowledge my action, that becomes punya. It's a good thing to do. It's definitely good. It brings good result. But that's not what Buddha wanted us to do. He didn't ask to increase punya. He asked us to increase kusala. That means how to give and not have expectation. How to give, how to engage in this righteous action. So I learn not to expect more, not to have that subtle expectation or attachment. And the kusala kamma is harder. And samma kammanta takes you to kusala path. And you do things, it will reduce, again, reduce attachment, reduce anger, reduce ignorance. Anything that you do, if that reduce one of three of those, you are in the right direction. We are in the right kammanta, the right action. And right speech, I'll stop with the right speech and we'll talk about the remaining four in the next meeting. So right speech has to do with choosing your word carefully. Buddha knew that language is very powerful tool for human interaction. And he spent, now this could be just a mythical story. You know, there's in Theravada tradition, we have this story. Buddha spent 7 weeks right after enlightenment in solitary. So he didn't go to talk about Dhamma the following morning after his enlightenment. He spent 7 weeks. And those 7 weeks, many interpretations are presented. They are telling, one of them is like Buddha was showing gratitude to people who helped him, all that stuff. But I like this interpreter, DJ Kalupahana. He was a professor at Hawaii University. He also graduated from the same school I am from, Peradeniya University. He was explaining Buddha spent that 7 weeks of his time coining words that suit for his teaching. For example, the word Arya, how it was interpreted during the Buddha's time and pre-Buddha time. In pre-Buddha time, Arya was considered as a pure caste or pure ethnic group, versus the Buddha redefined the term Arya as a people, those who follow the novel path. And Brahmin, the Buddha, before the Buddha, they used word Brahmin as the more pious, the religious group. And for Buddha, the Brahmin was Bahida Papa Dhammo, the person who has abandoned bad or wrong path is Brahmin. So Buddha used that 7 weeks of time, that's about 49 days, refining his language. Now that gives us a little bit of emphasis on, why do we need to use right speech? Well, Buddha was careful to choose word. You have to be careful when you choose your word. It can be very hurtful. It can take people, the other topic is like, people use language to misguide the whole nation. Classic example these days, turn the news on. You will see how people are manipulating language to, like, unfortunately, casualties, hundreds of people's death just because we didn't get proper information. fast backward 7 months, if we were told about this COVID-19, how dangerous it could be, what should be done, just words, right? Just the information was presented in an accurate way, probably we don't lose that 240,000 lives. We lost them, just the language misguiding. Maybe I'm taking too far, but it can divide people. It can bring lots of danger to us. So if any kind of language you use that again divides, that breaks unity, you are in misguided language, misguided speech. And the right speech would be you talk in a way that unites people. Talk in a way it reduces your anger, it reduces your attachment, your ignorance. And this happens, all these now I talked about so far, right understanding, right thought, right action, right speech. When you look at all these, they are not free from one another. There should be right mindfulness in every step. You cannot talk, you cannot use right speech if you're not mindful. If you totally forgot what you're supposed to say. You cannot do right action if you are not aware about your thought process. They go hand to hand. And if we keep it together, this will be the best gift that we have from the Buddha. And it will transform life. It will bring peace, bring unity, and also help us to move on in this spiritual journey. So with that, I will end, and I'll try to remember the remaining 4 if I come back again for next talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sai. And if you have any question, you can ask right now. And we hope to see you again maybe next month or January. Just Vinita, maybe January, maybe December. Anyway, if you have any question, any comment, we have time to talk right now.
I think I might have a question. I'm Rick on your screen. What do we do? How do we manage our reaction when we hear incorrect, not right speech, or see not right action?
Rick, are you? Let me see if I understood your question. You're saying if you hear somebody's misrepresenting information, what do we do? Is that your question?
Yeah, how do we react to that? We say nothing. How do we manage our thoughts? Do we just let them go by? Mm-hmm. What is the best path there, the recommended path?
Yeah, so I can bring up another advice from the Buddha. So I like to use his way of handling questions. Again, it was during his last 3 months. There is this very long teaching called Parinibbana Sutta. I'll type. So this is a very long sutta. It gives a nice, it's like a novel. If you take a novel, this sutta is like a novel, Buddha's last few months. Anyway, to the point, during Buddha's time, similar question was asked, how do we know whether people are giving you right information or wrong information? What do I do in such situation? So Buddha gave this nice advice. Anytime you are presented with, let's say, something related to virus or something related to Dhamma, Buddha's teaching, or something else, anytime you hear, we like to react because we are, again, constantly governed by our disposition, by sankhara. We know things, we remember things, but unfortunately, we are not always correct. It's not accurate. So anytime you hear such information, Buddha's advice, again, from his teaching, is that you take the information, you neither accept nor reject that information. And you go to the source and compare with the source whether that information was presented in an accurate way. If it was presented in an accurate way, you just accept it and praise the guy who gave you that information. And if it was not presented in an accurate way, you reject and you don't go and try to complain and accuse that person for misrepresenting. So, people ask, Buddhists are non-violent. I think Buddha's approach is like a more instead of trying to correct others, find your right information. That's his direction. You don't want to go and complain, you didn't say it right, you were wrong, this is what actual information is. You can do that if the person is in such state. He can accept their correction. But if not, then our job is to get the information, do the fact checking, and if it is accurate, that's wonderful. If it is not, then you just reject that information, dump that information, and do your own research. So it works to avoid conflict. It works because it avoids confrontation, unnecessary confrontation, I should say. And also, Buddha is trying to empower us to have that individuality. Given information doesn't necessarily you need to just take it and accept. In Dhamma quality, if you read in Pali, there is Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipassiko. So that term Ehipassika means you have to go and see what this is about. So even Dhamma, just don't accept as it was. Not to accept as it was presented, but you use your senses to analyze, check the fact, and see if you can accept or reject. So that's something I can remember from Buddha's teaching. I don't know if I answer your question, Rick.
Yes, sort of. So if we know something's wrong, and say, for example, a spouse or someone says, let me look at this. This person said this. It's obviously wrong. I know it's wrong. I'm not sure the reaction to say, yes, that's a misguided comment, but that's like a judgment. Yes, isn't that awful what this person said? I don't think that's the Buddha way. So it's kind of like, when we have people in our lives, say people we live with, and they make comments like that. So I'm kind of not sure what to say. Like, I don't need to research it because I know it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, am I making a judgment by saying, yes, that's wrong? So I just don't know kind of what the right way to say, the right way to think, because I have thoughts that pop into my head. So I'm not sure if I should, just let them fly.
Are you trying to avoid using any kind of judgment to that person because it was incorrect information?
Right, like who am I to judge for this person's on their own journey? Wish them well, wish them peace, understanding. You see?
Yeah. I see. Now, that's let's go back to practicing right action and right speech. If you look into the sutta, now the very basic level of practicing precepts, not to lie, not to say hurtful thing, is first step. Now that does not make it complete. To make those precepts complete, taking, let's say, the speech, because we're talking about somebody lied, is not lying. So I refrain from telling lies. That's the first thing you do. But in sutta, the precept is very simple. But if you look into now more detailed teaching, you will find avoiding lie is the first step. The second step is you promote truth. You encourage people to tell the truth. You highlight what is truth and what is untrue. So if you know that somebody's lying and it could be dangerous to the person, and again, if the person, you have a way to tell the person the information was inaccurate and the person is ready to accept and also see what you have to offer, that is still accepted. It won't be judging because now you are practicing next level of precepts. You, rather than just avoiding lies, you also promoted telling truth, telling things that would benefit other people.
Okay, thank you.
So next question for the Vince.
I have a question.
Yes, David.
Well, I actually have a problem with rumination. I was abused by a narcissist for quite some time. The opposite, I'm very empathetic. And I was hurt by something that he did, which was I was writing a textbook and he pretty much stole it. And he was mean to me. And so when I say metta, I want to forgive him. I want it to be over. I want peace and love for him. But it keeps coming back, anger, over and over.
I see.
I want release. And do you have any advice about that?
Thank you, David. Thank you, David, so much for sharing your story. And I can only imagine the pain that you go through. You know, when somebody steals my assignment, it's just a few pages. It hurts a lot. And if somebody stole your book, that's you. I'm sure you have devoted a lot of time, energy, and wisdom to compose that. And on top of that, being more abusive, it just makes it harder to let go. And it's definitely painful. I can feel it. I can feel your pain, and why I know why it comes back again and again. Now, one reason that, just to be a little bit out of this problem and look at your problem, the reason you feel more pain, probably, maybe not the actual reason, but probably could be because you are so much invested in that action, right? The writing a book or the knowing the person, expectation. So when you are more involved, the pain is stronger. Just like, if somebody yells at you on the street, you don't feel any much reaction, versus your family member yells at you, that hurts more. And especially they yell at you in front of other people, hurts more, because now you also use this social dynamic to look at the situation. So to say that, I'm trying to see, it hurts more because you are more invested. And the bright side is, you are still capable of redoing the same process. If you wrote that book, your work, and that would be inspirational story. You rewrite the same book or write better book from that version. And I'll tell you one, being abused, being hurt by other people, the Buddhist way of dealing, my personal immediate reaction would be, let's go and beat that guy. So that would be my reaction, right? So what do we do? Do we keep fighting? If we beat him, he will beat us back or do something worse. So that's where reaction is. We want to respond, which is different from reaction. So this monk, he was planning to go to current Afghanistan during the Buddha's time. He wanted to ask Buddha's permission, Bhante, can I go there? And during that time, that area was known to be very notorious people, known for notorious people. They hurt, they beat, they like abuse whoever comes there. But Buddha asked this monk, are you sure you want to go to Afghanistan, in that region? And Bhante, his name was Punna, Mantani Buddha, Punna. Bhante said, yeah, Bhante, I'm ready. And Buddha asked him, I heard that people there, they say nasty thing to monks. Are you ready to accept that? And Punna said, yeah, Bhante, that's still nice. At least they don't beat me. So I'll be okay with whatever they have to say. They call me out or say nasty things, I'll be fine. And I also heard Buddha says, they throw stone, they beat people, those who are strangers. And Bhante again replied, Bhante, that's still good. If they don't break my limbs, I'll still take it, I'll be fine if they just beat me. And the next was, I also heard that they break limbs. Sometimes they even kill. What do? Do you still want to go? And Bhante said, well, Bhante, this life is so much pain. if they just end my life, I'll be still happy to go and serve. So that Bhante was showing that he can take different layers of mistreatment. Now we are not there yet, but the message is, looking from that Bhante's story, the person hurt you physically or psychologically, hurt you. What I think is hurting more is the memory, right? What happened, that's the part that's hurting us a lot, and having hard time letting go those pain. And unfortunately, the person whoever did that damage may not even know you're still suffering from his action or her action, right? So it the we look at that, you're making more copies of same incident, and longer you hold, thicker those paper gets. So every day you think about it, you make new copies, it was one incident, now it seems like it's taking a toll on your life, and it's so heavy to let go. So just like, if you keep holding this cup, holding for a few seconds doesn't burden me, but if I have to hold like this for, let's say, 30 minutes or an hour, I might have terrible pain. And that's what is happening with our mind. And from Buddhist teaching, we can look at impermanence and some of the karmic connection, right? There, I'm not implying that you have done something in the past, but there are people, those who do these bad things, and there is the consequence for them. We're not praying for that, but it will be the result. And on your end, you want to end this cycle. Like, instead of they beat you and you go and beat them, and this, beating each other continues, you don't want this repeat. It already happened, and now my plan, my attempt should be, how do I stop making more copies of this? How do I look at, I'm still good, at least I'm not dead, they didn't hurt me so bad. And for book, can I do something to overcome the memory that I have attached with the book? So some of those technique, some of those ideas help us to, and talking definitely helps. How reading, personally, I like to read those Buddha stories. Some simple stories inspires me. Wow, he went through this. Even the Buddha went through some of these abuse, and he told, that's the 8 governing dhammas that people have to go through. Fame and ill fame, gain and loss, happiness and sadness, and popularity and in the opposite of popularity. So those 8 things that we face. And unfortunately, David, I think you faced a little stronger. And this will be your challenge. This will be your challenge to, can I let go of those memories so I don't have thicker layers of those memories and make my life more miserable? And the one final, I know I'm talking too much on that, because I think I felt a lot when you talked, David. The one from the psychological intervention, we have this technique called acceptance and commitment therapy. They use mindfulness. So if you're practicing mindfulness, definitely that's a plus sign. And they talk about how to accept some of the things that is hard to accept, like your incident. Somebody stole your book, abused you, hurt you, and did so many bad things. How about somebody who died? I'm in love with that person and died, or I lost my limb in an accident. So what do I do? Do I cry and lament about my loss and stop living? And that's where this ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, they ask, well, if you use mindfulness, you develop your mental flexibility. Why? You accept what happened is happened, rather than fighting, asking many questions. Why did this happen to me? That takes you to this logical, roller coaster. We have a lot of explanation. Why doesn't help? But can you accept what happened? After you accept, now you have to commit what you value in your life. This is how that works. Do I suffer the entire life thinking about what happened to me and stop doing things that I value in my life, or accept what happened, accept whatever happened to me in the past, but I still want to continue my life, do things that I value. So identifying those values, identifying meaningful things that you do will bring your life back and not stop you from living, not stop you from what you used to do. So those are, I wanted to tell a few things that might help you, David. I don't know how you feel about it.
Oh, you certainly have, and I really appreciate it. The acceptance thing, I'm going to work on that.
Right. Thank you. Thank you again. And I think we have one more question with Vince. Can you ask your question? And
yes, thank you. Very briefly, thank you so very much. That was really enjoyed it. I'm a substance abuse counselor, and you were very you were right on the mark with respect to. I tell my clients that synthetic and concentrated forms of drugs are a lot more addictive than the organic forms, and I like how you tied it into the Eightfold Path, and and just practicing mindfulness without incorporating the rest of the Eightfold Path. Thank you so much. Do you see for those individuals who are not practitioners of Buddhism, do you see any sort of downside to the fact that maybe they're only practicing mindfulness as opposed to having access to the other parts of the Eightfold Path?
Thank you, Vince, for your compliment. And yeah, I definitely wanted to use those terms, synthetic and organic, because that's what I'm trying to connect with. Well, in terms of practicing mindfulness and not using other parts, the interesting fact about that is when you practice mindfulness, it does bring other components too. So when you are too adamant that I don't care about the other, I just want to, not only non-Buddhist, even Buddhist. When I was in temple, people come to temple and they say, but I don't care much about giving dana. I don't care much about practicing precepts. I like to meditate. That surprises me. Like, well, you are interesting person because you just like that one piece and you want to use it. Do you think Buddha was stupid to give us eightfold paths rather than just one path if that was sufficient? Right? So if you look at that, Buddha wouldn't waste his breath telling all these different paths if one was enough. He knew by experience because he practiced them and he found they go hand to hand. And talking about non-Buddhists, those who practice mindfulness, I know a lot of those cases. That's a good introduction. I don't see them as a downside. It's a good intro to the remaining eightfold paths, the remaining 7 paths. Once you are genuinely in this practice of mindfulness, you learn that this is somewhat incomplete. There should be a little bit more about it. And that's how people search more, explore more, especially those who are practicing for themselves. I know Richard Davids, Dan Siegel, the guy who wrote Emotional Intelligence, Ekman, Daniel Ekman, those folks, they started their journey as researchers. They were studying about mindfulness. They were looking into this idea of mindfulness. And as they search more, they tried a little bit for themselves. As they practice, they realize, wait, this is good, but this shouldn't be it. It should have a little more parts. And they now, embraced more from Buddhist teaching. So to me, starting with mindfulness won't lead you down, won't take you down, but it will open that opportunity to explore more and see. You can identify other parts, the remaining 7, or at least there are more. At least that knowledge, there should be more. That's sufficient, and it opens door for identifying more parts of this practice. Yeah, I think from IBMC they wrote that. Oh, okay. I thought it was like emotionless. Okay, yeah. So it won't be downside. They will benefit even from mindfulness itself, and I know that they will continue searching, because thinking us as human, if you believe in rebirth, we have been through this cycle of life for many years, in and out, many times, many ways. So I myself think I'm an old soul. Now, I don't believe in a soul, because I know that when you go to automatic doors, when you go to the stores, the door doesn't open sometime because I don't have soul. So it just like kept closed. That's a joke. So I don't have a soul. But if you think yourself as this many being who's been going through cycles, you have gone through ups and downs. You have been introduced to Buddhist ideas, other teachings. Why on earth I am so inspired to learn about Buddhism? Why not other path? There should be some connection from our previous lives. We've been fostering this skill. We've been harnessing our skill of meditation, skill of Buddhist knowledge. And I always assure people, don't worry. If you are in this path today, that means you've been in this path for a very long time. It just takes longer. You don't want to give up, because this will take you every attempt, listening to Dhamma Talk, practicing meditation for a few minutes. Every attempt, everything you do is a step closer to the enlightenment, to the goal that we all aspire for. So people, those who are introduced today, they will come along, they will benefit. And those who are already in, they will definitely prosper. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Mr.
Bhante? I just want to thank him for another wonderful talk.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Thank you again for Mr. Sailesh, and hope to see you around January sometime. Again, thanks for everybody. We're going to chanting the page 4 and page 10.
Bhante, I will take my leave. I was...
All right. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful weekend. Please stay safe.
Okay, thank you.
නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි ඉතිපිසෝ භගවාන් අරහං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධෝ විඤ්ඤාචරණ සංපන්නෝ සුගතෝ ලෝක අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්මසාරති සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානං බුද්ධෝ භගවාති ස්වාක්ඛාතෝ භගවතා ධම්මෝ සංදිට්ඨිකෝ අකාලිකෝ වේහි පස්සිකෝ ඕපනයිකෝ පච්චත්තං වේදිතබ්බෝ විඤ්ඤුහිති සුපාටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ උජුපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ ඥාය පටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ සාවක සංඝෝ සාමීචි පටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ සාවක යදිදං චත්තාරි පුරිස යුගානි අට්ඨ පුරිස පුග්ගලායේස භගවතෝ සාවක සංඝෝ ආහුනේයෝ පාහුනේයෝ දක්ඛිනේයෝ අංජලි කරණී අනුත්තරං පුඤ්ඤක්කෙත්තං ලෝකස්සාති සම්බීතියෝ විවජ්ජන්තෝ සබ්බ රෝගෝ විනස්සතු මාතේ භවත්වන්තරාය සුඛී දීඝායුකෝ භව. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dharma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. Neng du khong po kap punya di nhai đăng du sung thăng nghe nhai công thái ba da neng di du khong bực po cặp punya di nhai đăng du sung thăng nghe nhai công thái ba da neng di du khong bực po cặp punya di nhai đăng du sung thăng nghe nhai công thái ba da. Om Mani Padme Hum. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Chiamala Alte.
Thank you, everybody, again. Thank you, Mr. Nam, and all the monks who participate today for the service, all the members. Thank you, and especially I want to thank for Dashan, who's doing the helping our Zoom program. And again, by the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, you all be well and happy. Thank you again.